Assalamualaikum and good morning. So it's gonna be a long day today for us, at least for the seminar. 10:45, 12:45, so 2 hours, and we have two topics to talk about. So bear with me. I literally bear with me lah. So for the first group just now, I managed to share everything within the 2 hour. So hopefully with you guys, I managed to do it also lah, right? But in order to cram ataupun try to cover everything within the 2 hour period, I'm gonna summarize actually a lot of things instead of I go through all pages of the slides. I just summarize wherever necessary, and I'm gonna illustrate together juga and the past year questions and let me see if there's okay. Right, so I'm gonna use another set of question as compared to the previous group juga lah. So again, sama macam konsep sebelum ni. If you want to view the other past year questions, so feel free to browse through videos of the other group. Okay, so let's start dengan the topic of mathematics of finance. Okay, so topic number 10. So give me 1 second. Share the screen. Okay, so the mathematics of finance is using the concept of the time value of money. Okay, time value of money, whereby the basic idea of time value of money is simply means the amount that you have today. Let's say if you have 10 ringgit today, the 10 ringgit will not be the same value in the future. Okay, when the time horizon change, the value of money also change. Okay, simply because the money can be compounded. Okay, the money can be compounded. So meaning if we have 10 ringgit today, if we keep in an account that will give us some return, 1 year from now, the 10 ringgit will not be the same anymore. It will grow lah basically. So that's the basic concept of time value of money. So when the time horizon change, the value of money change, and we can place the value of money from present to the future value, and vice versa, from future to the present value. So we can move ataupun we can slide the time and see the value from two perspectives. Okay, so the two basic concept of time value of money is called the present value, number one. Okay, and second is the future value. So in short, present value kita guna initial PV. For future value, we use the initial FV. Okay, and on top of the generic ataupun the basic present dengan future value ni, kita ada some variations towards present and also future value. So bear with me for hopefully kita boleh habis within half an hour or so to talk about the concept of present dengan future value. Okay, so I already mentioned about the concept of the ringgit today is not the same as the ringgit in the future because the money can grow. Let's look at the first concept yang dipanggil sebagai future value lah. So this is the first one, whereby the future value, as I mentioned, the name itself represent, we want to know what will be the value of our money in the future. Okay, so for example, I'm drawing a timeline dekat sini. So 0 to represent now, and let's say 4 years from now. So 4 ni adalah the future dates, 4 years from now. Okay, and I want to deposit 5,000 ringgit today. Okay, I will deposit one amount, 5,000, and I'm going to put it in an account that will pay, let's say, 5%. Okay, so akan ada 3 komponen that we need to know. When we do time value of money, we need to have at least 3 information. Okay, we need to know the amount that we deposit ataupun amount that we borrow. We need to know what will be the interest rate, and we need to know how long will it be. So ada 3 komponen. Right, so if we write it down in terms of the formula, the future value, okay, is equals to the amount that we deposit ataupun amount that we borrow. I letak sini AMT, amount, multiply with, since we are looking for future value. So the reference that we're going to use is the future value interest factor. So what is FVIF? Future value interest factor is the reference table. Okay, the reference table that if you look in your example of past year questions, semua past year questions yang pernah I buat sebelum ni, at the back of the questions akan ada 4-page appendix. Okay, ada 4 pages lah. So maybe I boleh share one. So ni contoh from Jan 2018. Okay, January 2018. Okay, ni soalan yang ni bukan, kita belum buat lagi, sorry. Tak best lah dia punya ni. But anyway, I kena tak boleh rotate Not a good table lah. Give me 1 second. I guna table yang lain tapi bila buat soalan kejap lagi, kita go back to that semester lah. Cuma susunan dia tak secantik macam ni. Ataupun sebenarnya I dah rotate untuk soalan ikut masa tu. But anyway, okay. So these are the table. We have table 1, future value interest factor, FVIF. Okay, the one that I just wrote just now, FVIF. So inilah table dia, FVIF. So in every table, they're gonna be 2 references. Okay, so horizontally, you're gonna see the rates. Ada 1%, 2%, 3%, up until dalam table ni lah at least 30%. Okay, but after the 10%, lepas tu dia ada gap. Kan? Dia gap 2%, 2%, then 2% lah sampai 30%. So that's horizontal. And then vertically, you can see the period. And the period ada from year 1 until year 60. So again, akan ada yang dia skip lah. Macam contoh sampai year 20, 25, and then tiba-tiba 30, then dia move in 5s lah, 5 years. 30, 35, 40, 50, 60. Okay, so how to read this table? The table, you need 2 reference point. Pertama, you need to know the percentage, the rate of interest. And second, you need to know the time, the period. Okay, so my example just now was 5%, kalau tak salah letak 5%, and 4 years. So 5% dekat sini, and 4 years is here. So bila you cross-reference 5 and 4 ni, so you dapat this amount. So I besarkan sikit. Okay, so it's 5% and 4 years. So you get 1.2155. Okay, 1.2155. %, 4 years kan. So the FVIF is 5%. Tulis mula. The reference table 5% and 4 years kan. Tapi by now I dah tak ingat lah, tapi tak apa. The amount is 5,000. This is the amount that we deposit. And the ones in the bracket, okay, the one in the bracket adalah our reference. So the table is called FVIF, and our references will be 5% dengan 4 years. 5%, 4 years is 1.2155. So I'm going to write 1.2155. So we just simply multiply the two. 5,000 times 1.2155. So we're going to get 6,077 ringgit and 50 cents. So what does it mean? Okay, if I deposit 5,000 ringgit today in an account that pays 5% for 4 years, okay, at the end of year 4, the amount in my account would be 6,077 ringgit and 50 cents. So obviously the future value will be higher than the present value. So present value dia 5,000. Sekarang kita deposit 5,000. And after 4 years, in the account that pays 5%, my account will be 6,077 ringgit and 50 cents. So ada penambahan around 1,077 ringgit and 50 cents. So the 1,077.50 cents tu adalah the profit that I generated from this account. Okay, so this process daripada present value now and moving to the future value in year 4 ni dipanggil sebagai concept of compounding. We are compounding the amount each year, assuming that you keep the money in the account, you tak withdraw, you just leave it there together with the profits you generated every single year. So dia akan compound lah. Tahun pertama 5,000, betul sebenarnya tahun kedua dia akan naik 5,000 something, naik sampailah tahun keempat dia jadi 6,077 ringgit. Okay, so that compound value taking into consideration the principal and interest left in the account by itself, then dia akan keep on compounding. Sebab ingat kita hanya deposit sekali je. We just keep our money in the bank once, which is 5,000 today. That's it. Kita tak do additional deposits. Okay, we just do it once. So this concept of future value is known as the single payment. Okay, single payment lah, sekali deposit saja ataupun sekali pinjam saja. So it can be deposit, it can be borrowing. Both ways depending on situation, but technically we can evaluate the amount using the same formula lah, deposit ataupun borrowings. Okay, so this is the generic formula dia. FV equals to amount times dengan FVIF. Cuma patutnya tulis macam ni. I tulis mula lah formula dia. FV equals to amount multiply dengan, since we are looking for FV, so we're going to refer to FVIF, future value interest factor, K and N. Okay, so this is actually the formula. Tadi ni ada tulis jawapan sorry. So FVIF is the table, K is the rate of interest. Okay, dalam case tadi itu is 5%. And N is the time, the tenure. So again, dalam soalan tadi, N I letak as 4. So I repeat, the ones in the bracket is actually our reference table. So table apa? Table FVIF. What are the references? K berapa persen and berapa tahun. Okay, and then we get the interest factor. Dalam case study, we get 1.2155. And then we just multiply straight away dengan the amount. Okay, straight away multiply dengan the amount. So the process is called compounding, as I mentioned. Dia ada dua formula, tapi the one yang kita guna yang ni lah sebenarnya. Okay, kita guna yang ni. So this one ni tak payah tengok lah, we just follow this one. Okay, cuma kat sini dia letak present value, but I substitute it dengan amount. So amount ni lebih generic sebab lebih mudah nak ingat lah kot, I guess. Okay, sama je. Okay, it's the same. So macam contoh tadi lah, if I deposited 5,000 today, technically that's the present value, but it's referring to the amount of that transaction. Okay, so FV is the future value and FVIF is the table. Okay, so ni ada example, you can try. Dia deposit 1,000, so this is the amount. 10% is the K, and then N dia 3. So these are the three components that we need. So FV dia will be 1000 darab dengan FVIF 10% and 3. Okay, so kalau you tengok kat table, 10% is here, 3 is here kan, so it would be 1.3310 ni lah, 1.3310. $1,000 kan. 1, 2, 3. So it become 1331. So yeah, as simple as that lah. Okay, to get the future value. So again, rule of thumb, future value will always be bigger than the present value. So present value dia 1000. So the future value 1300. Okay, sama macam tadi lah. Kalau tadi the present value is 5000, the future value is 6077 ringgit. Okay, so ni dia punya solution lah. So what if the transaction happens more than once? So tadi tu, as I mentioned, it's a single payment. But now we are looking at multiple cash flows. So kalau dia berlaku lebih daripada sekali, more than once, we have to calculate it individually. So kena kira satu persatu lah. So this example dia kata accounts pay 6%. So again, this is our K, 6%. And our N, sebab dia ada dua transaction, so N akan ada dua N yang berbeza lah. So you deposit 1000 today. So this is our first stream. And then we have 3000 next year. So this is our second stream. So what will be the N value pada tahun ketiga? Okay, so technically, you gonna transfer the 1000 that you deposit today from here, pergi ke sini. So kita nak tahu berapa nilai dia. And second, the 3000 from year 1, you're gonna bring it to the as well. So ada dua transaction lah, you kena buat individually. So what's the difference? The K is the same, 6%, tetapi the N dia different. So untuk stream yang pertama, the 1000 ringgit ni, so dia from today to the third year, so N untuk transaction ni adalah 3 tahun. So the N is 3 years. Whereas for the 3000, daripada year seterusnya, the following year, the next year ni, daripada year 1 ni, bawa ke year 3, the N is just 2 years. Kan, 2 tahun je daripada year 1, dia bergerak 1, 2 kan. So it's just 2 years. So your future value akan ada dua komponen. So komponen yang pertama is the 1000 ringgit that you deposited today, 1000. Okay, so you kena tengok lah FVIF 6% and 3 years. Okay, sebab N dia 3 tahun yang untuk RM1000 ni. And then you're gonna plus with the second stream, which is 3000 ringgit dengan FVIF 6% juga, but 2 years. Okay, so you kena tengok dua reference lah for the table. So you have 1000 plus 3000, certain amount, and then cari the total. So the ones in the bracket, kita kena tengok lah, 6% and 3, and 6% and 2. So our reference again still future value. So 6% for 3 is this one, 1.1910. And then 1236. Okay, yang 2 tahun ni hopefully I ingat lah. Kalau tak ingat kena patah balik. 10. Okay, yang ni 1236 1.1236. Okay. So the larger the interest factor, the closer to the point lah. 1.1910 dengan 1236. Okay, so it's gonna be 1000 times 1.1910 plus 3000 times 1.1236. So it's gonna be 4561.80 cents. Okay, so If it's involve multiple cash flow, especially if the amount of deposit tu berbeza, different, you have to do it individually. So kalau ada 3 transaction, 3 kali lah you kena buat. So just pay extra attention to the end bila dia compound. Okay, so this is the solution ada sebenarnya kat belakang ni. Alright, so that's the first concept, the future value. Okay, FV tadi lah. So now we move on to present value. So this is the second concept. Again, if we have a timeline, again 0 and 4 juga katakan. But now instead of you deposit today, you assume that you're going to receive a fund in the future. Katakanlah you expected to receive a 7,000 kat sini. Dalam tempoh 4 tahun lagi, you jangkakan you akan dapat pulangan dari certain investment worth 7,000, katakan assuming. And dalam konsep present value, always kena ada assumption of the interest lah. So assume the interest against 5%. I gunakan 5% juga as example. So to find the present value, dia adalah proses reverse lah, kita reverse. So meaning from here, you're going to bring it to the today's value ataupun to the present value lah, to today's value. So the concept ni dipanggil sebagai discounting concept. Kalau tadi tu compounding, this is discounting. We are discounting the values. So meaning kalau discounting, we know lah konsep dia sama The future value will always be bigger than the present value. So kalau future value dia 7,000, so bila kita discount, the amount will be lower lah than 7,000 ringgit. So to write it down in terms of the formula, again kita guna formula ni, or in my writing it will be PV, present value. We want to find the present value, so the present value will be the one outside, and then kita letak amount. Okay, and then I put PVIF. Okay, note that tadi FVIF sebab kita refer table future value. Now since we are looking for present value, we're looking at the present values table. So PVIF ni adalah table dia. And the same thing K dengan N. Again, K itu is the rate of interest, N tu is the time. Okay, so based on this example, the amount is 7,000 ringgit. PVIF, the K sama 5% and 4 years. Okay, kindly note tadi pun 5% and 4 years. Yang ni tadi kan? Yang ni tadi sorry, yang ni tadi. Ni tadi pun 5% and 4 years, cuma I guna 5,000 kan. 5,000. The reference point 5% for 4 years sama. Cuma tadi FVIF. And now we are looking at PVIF. So I want to share with you what's the implication kalau you refer to the wrong table lah. So kalau yang the second one tadi tu 5% and 4 kan. So kalau you tak tengok table ni betul-betul, you tengok je dekat table ni katakan. So 5% and 4, you terus ambil 1.2155 contohnya. Which is wrong lah because this is FVIF table. Okay. The one that we should look at is actually the PVIF table, which is kita kena browse through ke bawah dalam table 3 ni. Okay, how I know it's the correct table, the present value, interest factor, and then dia ada bagi juga initials PVIF dekat sini. So this is the correct one lah. And the rate again sama 5% and 4. And note that the amount is not more than 1. Kalau tadi tu 1.12 whatever kan. So yang ini kebanyakannya is below than 1 sebab we are discounting the value. So value dia akan menjadi lebih kurang. Lebih rendah value dia kan. So 5% and 4 in this case is going to be 0.8227. Okay, 0.8227. So we're going to multiply it again 7,000 ringgit. So the amount would be 5,758 ringgit and 90 cents. Okay, 5,758 and 90 cents. So the discounting amount after we do the present value from the 7,000 that we're going to receive in the future in today's value with the 5% interest factor is going to be RM5,558.90. So that's why dalam present value ni, we use it a lot when we do investment analysis. Okay, sebab bila kita buat investment analysis, when we want to compare all of the investment punya opportunities yang expected to receive bila kita invest, kita akan bawa semua value tu to today's value, and then baru kita compare which one is actually give us better value. Okay, so that's why for comparison purposes, selalunya kita akan bring every returns tu to today's value, baru kita boleh buat comparison lah. Okay, so this is again present value in the sense of a single payment. Okay, kenapa single payment? Sebab 7,000 tu kita terima sekali je. Okay, kita terima sekali sahaja. Right? So sama juga konsep dia. Kalau dia multiple cash flow, okay, so in this case, dia receive RM100 today, and RM200 in year 1, and RM150 in year 3. So bila dia letak dalam macam ni, ada nak masuk, tak boleh masuk ke? Dah auto kan tadi kan? Okay. So, so the rate is 6%. So the K is 6%. So the N again, depending on when. So untuk soalan multiple cash flow ni, again we have to bring all the future values ni ke value hari ni, today, which is year 0 ni lah. So you kena bawa yang this one pergi ke sini. 0 ni tak ada effect lah sebab there's no money pun. So here satu lagi kena bawa ke sini. And today yang 100 ni akan remain as is lah. So RM100 in today's value still at RM100. Okay, cuma yang akan berubah adalah this 200 whereby the N is 1. Okay, sebab daripada sini ke sini setahun je, 1 year. And for this 150, the N is 3. 3 tahun lah, 1, 2, 3 kan. So N is 3 years. So you need to look at PVIF. The K is 6%. So 6% of 3 dengan PVIF 6% and 1. Okay, ada 2. Yang our concern adalah yang 2 ni lah, yang 150 dengan 200. So if you look at the table, PVIF 6 and 3 and 6 and 1. So PVIF, make sure table yang betul. 6% 3 adalah 0.8396. 6% and 1 is 0.9434. Okay, so 2 ni darab dengan the respective values, and then plus dengan RM100. So you akan dapat lah amount dia 41462. Kalau nak tulis 9434 0.9434 dekat sini, and 963 adalah 0.8396. Okay, so kalau year dia 0, okay, technically it's gonna be 1. Okay, walaupun dalam table ni tak ada, it's not appear on the table, tapi kalau dia year 0, okay, regardless of the percentage, the interest factor is equals to 1. 1 tu bermaksud RM100 ni kekal RM100 lah, sebab value dia hari ni. RM100 tu kita ada hari ni, so today is still worth RM100. So technically kalau you tak payah darab apa-apa pun tak apa. So it's just 100, and then plus you take 200 times 0.9434, then plus with 150 times 0.8396. So then you're going to get 414.63. Okay, so that is the total value. Right, total value for the transaction lah. Total value for the transactions. Okay, so as of now, kita ada present value and future value, single payment. Okay, whereby kita hanya deposit ataupun receive funds once, and then kita find either future ataupun present value. Second scenario just now, when we have multiple transactions. Okay, and multiple transaction yang kita buat so far, bila amount dia memang tak sama lah. Okay, 100, 200, 150. Lepas tu yang earlier example tadi pun, Yang multiple cash flow yang untuk kat sini pun 1,000 and 3,000 is different amounts. Okay. So bila ada multiple transaction, multiple cash flows with different amount, we have to do it individually. Okay, we have to do it individually. But there's another concept of multiple cash flow, tapi dia dalam bentuk annuities. So annuity ni is a multiple cash flow. Okay, multiple cash flow, tapi dia ada dua characteristics. Okay, karakteristik dia apa? It has the same amount. Okay, it has the same amount, and you're gonna receive it. Consistently lah each period. Sekejap give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so coming back to annuity tadi So annuity is multiple cash flow punya transactions. Cuma karakteristik dia, the amount must be the same every time. Okay, and it happens kita panggil consistently according to the period. So maksudnya consistent tu it can be monthly, it can be annually. Okay, yang menunjukkan transaction tu consistent berlaku over a certain period. Okay, that's why kita panggil monthly ataupun annually. So contoh, dia banyak berlaku dalam financial transaction lah. Payment of mortgages, hire purchase, payment of insurance premium. Okay, you bayar monthly installment of your loans. Itu menunjukkan annuity sebab amount yang kita bayar sama setiap bulan ataupun setiap tahun. Right, for example, if you have a hire purchase, you beli kereta contohnya, you bayar RM300. Okay, so this is the same amount. And consistent every month. So this is the time. Okay, the total 60 bulan lah. Okay, so this indicates annuity. So apa kelebihan annuity? So annuity ni memudahkan kita kira. Okay, instead of we do individually, we just calculate it once. Kita kira sekali je, terus dapat the final answer lah. Okay, but again, we're gonna have both future value and the present value. Okay, so I'm just gonna write the summary dekat sini. We have the future value. Salah tadi lah. Yeah. So we have future value. I tambah perkataan A kat sini, annuity. And notice that the structure of the formula sama je. It's amount. Cuma amount dalam annuity selalunya represent the installment lah ataupun the deposits yang you buat multiple times tu kan. So amount tu mesti sama, which relates dengan transaction of installment ataupun as I said lah, deposit, whatnot. Okay, amount ni akan menunjukkan transaction yang berlaku berulang tu lah dia bukan sekali je berulang. And then FVIFA. So kalau tadi FVIF untuk future value, tapi bila kita tambah A dekat belakang ni, so we add the A dalam FVIF ni juga. So this is future value, interest factor, annuity. Okay, with the K and N sama. Right? And for present value pun sama. So it will be amount EVIFA, K and N. Okay, cuma reference table sahaja yang berbeza, but the structure would be the same. Okay, to add another layer of annuity. Annuity ada dua jenis. So bear with me lah sekarang, ada 1, 2, 3. The fourth variation. Okay, so ordinary annuity adalah annuity yang biasa, the normal annuity whereby it happens at the end. So kalau di ordinary, you don't have to do anything, kita guna formula yang sama macam kita buat tadi lah. This is the ordinary, this is ordinary. Cuma kalau dia berlaku annuity due. Okay, this is the second one of annuity. And how to differentiate? For the annuity due, it happens at the beginning. Now, immediately, today. Okay, ni semua adalah keyword yang menunjukkan the cash flow berlaku immediately, sekarang. Ataupun at the beginning of the period. Okay, so apa implication kalau dia ada keywords yang beginning now, immediately, today ni? We have to make adjustment to our formula. So, kalau untuk future value, dia still annuity, cuma I will add D dekat ujung dia. Future value annuity due. Okay, so we have to make a little bit adjustment. P pula lah. Okay, VIFA, KNN, sama je. As of now macam sama, tapi kita tambah 1 plus K dekat ujung dia. Okay, whereby 1 plus K itu represent 1 plus the rate of interest. So, you're going to get 1 plus K, katakanlah 5% is 1.05. And then you multiply dengan interest factor yang you dapat from the table. Then baru you multiply dengan amount to get the future value. Okay, so for the present value pun samalah. PVA due, amount, PVIFA, KN, and then 1 plus K at the back. Okay, due ni, annuity due, only applicable kalau ada these keywords. Okay, kalau tak ada, you akan assume this is just a ordinary. So ordinary tak payah buat apa-apa lah. Guna normal formula macam sama konsep dengan apa yang kita buat daripada tadi. Alright, so let's try some question. Kat belakang ni ada soalan. Let's dissect and try to understand macam mana nak solve the time value of money question. Sebab selalunya time value of money question ni dia akan bagi a scenario. Okay, so before we try to answer anything, remember dia ada 1, 2, 4, 6, 8 ada 8 possible scenarios. Kita ada present value, future value, single payment, present value, future value, multiple cash flows yang uneven, and then annuity due, annuity, ordinary annuity, future and present. Macam mana cakap ni? Sorry. The ordinary ada future and present value annuity, and then untuk due ada juga present and future value annuity due. So ada 8 possible scenarios lah with a slight variations of formula. So untuk menjawab soalan time value of money, you can understand what the question wants and what are the informations given to us. Okay, so macam contoh soalan pertama ni dia kata Encik Nizam contributes 1,500 ringgit. So you know this is the amount lah. Okay, amount. Tapi kita nak tahu amount ni, is it a single payment, a multiple payments ataupun annuity. Okay, so dalam case ni dia kata the 1,500 ringgit ni is per year. Okay, remember per year ni adalah keywords untuk annuity. Sebab 1,500 ni consistent setiap tahun. Okay, so that's the characteristics of annuity lah. So kita dah tahu soalan ni kita guna formula annuity. Cuma adakah dia ordinary annuity ataupun annuity due? So look for keywords. Ada tak dia mention 1,500 ni dia akan bayar immediately, bayar now, immediately, today contohnya, ataupun at the beginning. So semua keyword tu tak ada dalam soalan ni kan. So we're going to assume this is going to be ordinary annuity. Okay, ordinary annuity lah. So that's clear. Kita dah tahu it's going to be ordinary annuity. Cuma next kita kena tahu the question suruh kita cari present ataupun future. Tu kita kena baca lagi lah. Next nak simpan for the next 20 years. So this is our N, 20 years. And the interest is 10%. So this is okay. So dah cukup lah. Kita dah ada K, kita dah ada N, kita ada annuity. Cuma the keyword would be how much money will be saved will be. So ini adalah kata represent future value. Okay, how much will be saved. So this is future value kan. So bila you combine all the information, we know this is future value, ordinary annuity. Okay, itulah formula yang kita akan guna. Future value annuity. The amount is the amount of deposits every single year yang dia akan buat, FVIFA, and then the K and N. Okay, tak payah tambah 1 plus K lah sebab it is ordinary annuity. Okay, so amount of deposit adalah 1,500 setiap tahun. FVIFA, the K is 10%, and for the N is 20 years. Okay, so this is the reference that we need to find dalam FVIFA. So this is annuity table lah. So kena cari sekarang FVIFA. So this is FVIFA, future value interest factor annuity, FVIFA. Okay, and our reference tadi berapa? 10%, 20 years. So it's 10% here, and 20 years kena browse ke bawah sikit lah. Okay, 20 years, stop dekat 20 years kat sini. So 10% would be this one, 57.275. Okay, 57.275. Ini letak ni pada mana ni tu ni? $57.275. Okay, so 57.275 times with 1,500. So you're gonna get 85,912 and 50 cents. Okay, and that would be our answer lah. So untuk Nizam ni, at the end of year 20, bila dia deposit 1,500 every year, he's gonna have like 85,912.50 cents in his account at the end of year 20. So the concept and the power of compounding tu generate that amount of money lah for 20 years. Okay, so that's how we solve. Cuma bear in mind, there are some cases, the question asks us to find something else. Maksudnya kat sini, kebanyakan yang kita buat so far, semua kita cari future value, present value. But there are some instances whereby the question might ask us to find the amount, mungkin, ataupun cari K, ataupun cari N. Okay, it's possible. So if they want us to find amount K dengan N, obviously dia akan bagi kita value yang kat luar ni lah. Right, so they're gonna substitute the given information, the known information, it's either future value ke present value, annuity and whatnot, and then dia akan substitute dengan suruh cari what would be the installment, ataupun what would be the K, what would be the interest rate, what would be the number of years, contohnya. And we can look that dekat contoh soalan kedua ni. Okay, sebab kalau you tengok at the end dia tulis what is the interest rate. Okay, what is the interest rate? So what is the K untuk soalan ni lah. So if we read from the beginning, dia kata you borrowed 193,456.80. Okay, what is this amount you borrowed? Okay, ingat we have either future ataupun present value. So dalam case ni dia it's a given number. Okay, dia bagi kita amount borrowed, amount yang pinjam. So bila kita cerita pasal pinjaman, akan ada dua value lah kalau kita pinjam kan. Satu amount yang kita pinjam, satu amount yang kita kena bayar. Okay, amount borrowed is the principal, then there's another amount that you're gonna have to pay in the future. The payable amount lah. Okay, so dalam case ni dia bagi you borrowed. So technically this is our present value. Okay, this is amount that we borrow. Okay, and then dia bagi tahu ada installment payment. So again, installment payment is a keyword of an annuity. Sebab amount yang kita akan bayar dalam bentuk installment selalunya fixed like this one. Dia akan bayar 24,000. So this is our amount, and this amount is installment, which is annuity lah. So technically this is gonna be present value annuity. Okay, and bila you nampak annuity, you double check whether it's annuity due ataupun ordinary. So again, cari keyword ada tak beginning, now, today, immediately. So again, all of those keywords tak ada dalam ni. So we just gonna assume this is the normal ataupun ordinary annuity lah. Okay, and then we have the N of 15 years. So the unknown amount adalah the K. K is unknown. Okay, K is unknown. So kalau kita dah define, it's gonna be a PVA punya formula. So it's gonna be amount PVIFA K and N. Okay, so this is the formula that we're gonna use. So instead of looking for PVA, the PVA is given now untuk soalan ni. 113, 456, 80 cents. And the amount of installment pun given 24,000. Okay, so the unknown would be in the one dalam bracket. So the K is unknown. And the N is 15 years. Okay, so kita kena solve benda ni mathematically lah. So ni darab kan. So you have to bring this to the side. So you have to divide 193, 456, 80 cents divide by 24,000. So you're gonna get 8.0607 dekat sini with the PVIFA reference of K and 15. Okay, so kena cari K. So the ones in the bracket ni maksudnya you kena tengok dalam table lah. Okay, the only known information is the N, 15. Okay, and the interest factor is 8.0607. So first, go to the correct table. It's PVIFA, so this is future value. So this is not the one. So this is PVIF, but this is not annuity. So the correct table is this one, PVIFA. PVIFA, we don't know the rates, the interest rate kita tak tahu. Kita hanya ada dua information, the interest factor, 8.0607, and the N of 15. So kita pergi N15, I letak dekat bawah sekali ni, N period of 15. Then kita kena browse through, scan and look for 8.0607, ada tak? Okay, and we can find it here. Yeah, highlight boleh. 8.0607 ada kat sini. N15, and we cross-reference and check the rate is 9%. Yeah, 9%. So you cross-reference macam tu. So 15 years, 8.0607, and then you look at the top and you see it's 9%. Okay, so the K is 9%. And you refer to the table lah. Okay, you refer it to the table. Okay, so that's how we solve kalau the unknown is the one dalam bracket. Okay, so possible je soalan bagi you K tapi disuruh cari tahun pun possible juga. So the same thing. So the unknown is now the ones vertically, then you carilah the rates. Cuma just to highlight, kebetulan soalan ni I dah memang set, kita dapat the exact amount lah kan. Kita bila cari 80607 memang ada dalam table tu. Okay, but there are some instances whereby you might not get the exact amount. So mungkin dia akan berada in between of two rates. So if that's the case, kita kena buat satu proses yang dipanggil sebagai interpolation. Okay, interpolation. Okay, untuk konsep interpolation ni I simpan dulu. I will explain this interpolation punya proses bila kita buat topik selepas ni. Okay, bear in mind, the ones that we do so far akan diguna pakai konsep dia dalam topik selepas ni. Okay, topik selepas ni kita akan guna juga Okay, the same process, especially for present value and also the present value annuity. So we're going to use that concept for the next topic of capital budgeting. Okay, so nanti you try lah yang lain ni. Mungkin I highlight what formula to use. Nanti you kira yourself lah. So untuk soalan ketiga ni, Miss Anita is going to receive 40,000. Okay, so in 7 years time, so N ni for sure N. What is the present value? So soalan dia tanya what is the present value. So spesifik lah, dia suruh cari present value. If the interest is 5%, so this is K. So 40,000 ni tak ada indicators that dia berlaku lebih daripada sekali. So this is a single payment lah. Dia akan terima 40,000 once in 7 years time. So what would be the present value? So you're going to from the present value je lah. Okay, PV 40,000, PVIF, ni straightforward ni question lah. K 5%, and 7. So nanti you cari, then you can get the answer straight away. So question number 4. Azah wishes to accumulate sum of money to perform her Hajj in 4 years time. So this is our end. Dia punya end game adalah 4 tahun. She should have 20,000. So ni amount yang dia expect to save. So 20,000 ni would be the future value lah. So ni amount yang dia nak, 20,000. So if she can earn 4%, so this is a K. How much she needs to save each year? So this is the installment yang unknown lah. Installment. So installment unknown. This is the amount lah kalau ikut formula. So and this also indicate bila the installment, this indicates annuity juga. Annuity. And again, dia tak ada mention pasal beginning. Semua dia ada bercerita pasal end kan. So this is the ordinary annuity again. So formula yang kita guna pakai FVA. Tulis dulu lah formula dia. Amount, FVIFA, K and N. So the future value kita dah ada, 20,000. Okay, so the unknown is the amount. The installment dia tanya berapa banyak kita kena save. So amount is the unknown. And FVIFA, K is 4%. N is 4 years. Okay, so amount ni lah you kena cari. So cari dalam table what is the interest factor. And you ambil 20,000 and divide the amount. Then you get the installment lah. So nanti you try to solve for the time value of money question untuk 2 soalan ni lah. Okay, so that's how we solve scenario based question. So soalan time value of money selalunya dia akan bagi dalam bentuk macam ni lah. Okay, so identify future value ke present value. Is it single payment, multiple payments ataupun kita bagi apa? Annuity. And just double confirm annuity tu adakah dia ordinary ataupun annuity due. Okay, cuma kalau annuity due kita kena add 1 plus K at the back. Okay, itu je lah. So that's the end of topic 10. Kita take a short break. Okay, kita break kejap before kita go to the final topic, which is topic 11 lah kot the last topic. Okay, so we take a short break kejap. Thank you. Okay, kita punya break sekejap je lah. So we have like 1 hour or so untuk go through another topic, another important topic I can say. Sekejap Let me try to betulkan dulu lah, I guess, untuk soalan yang kita akan buat kejap lagi. Okay, tak sempat lah nak ni. Ataupun give me 1 second, I try to delete. I buat Jan tadi. Okay. I'm prepping the document kejap Lepas question ni not in good setting. Okay. Okay, now looks much better. Okay, sorry. Okay, let's go through the final topic, topic 11. Okay, so the topic 11 is called the capital budgeting. Okay, so again, I'm going to summarize what does it mean by capital budgeting. So capital budgeting is a process ataupun a type of analysis that we do usually when we want to analyze ataupun identify what would be sebab selalunya dia melibatkan investment analysis lah. When we want to do some investment and when the involvement of funds tu besar, because when we talk about capital budgeting, it will involve huge capital investment. Walaupun dalam soalan mungkin amount dia tak besar lah tapi usually involve huge amount of money, and we want to identify whether project ataupun the investment would be profitable or not to us. So maknanya sebelum kita commit ourselves untuk keluarkan a big chunk of money for investment, we want to ensure that the cost dengan the cash flow that we're going to receive will be profitable or not. Okay, so in short itulah capital budgeting. So dia akan ada elemen the cost. Kita kena tahulah kalau dalam project dia akan ada dua ataupun in terms of the transactions in the capital budgeting, it can be in the process of exploring new projects, you nak involve in the new projects, ataupun it is actually in the process of purchasing assets. So ada dua kemungkinan lah selalunya. Okay, nak beli mesin baru, nak beli sistem baru contohnya, and every investment kita akan assume akan bring us cash flow, akan ada duit masuk lah. Kita akan spend certain amount of money and the project akan bagi kita returns. So we need to calculate later on whether the inflows, the cash flow tu, it will be sufficient or not to cover the cost. So in short, itulah the capital budgeting. So ingat when we talk about capital budgeting, usually it will involve investment. Sama ada investment on a new projects ataupun investment on a new assets. Okay, so that's capital budgeting lah. So ni contoh-contoh dia lah. Contoh-contoh transactions ataupun why they need to spend a lot of money. And I go straight to the types of projects. So sebelum kita buat calculation, you have to understand this because this would determine our decision. Okay, bila kita buat analysis tu tadi for the capital budgeting, dia akan fall down into two possible types of projects. Ni kalau project lah kalau asset tu mungkin lain, tapi for projects, there are two possible projects. Okay, satu dipanggil sebagai mutually exclusive. So mutual exclusive ataupun exclusive I always pegang the terms exclusive kat sini. So when you see the terms mutually exclusive ataupun exclusive, it is actually a decision whereby you tengah consider, let's say, two projects, okay, project A and project B, and these two projects perform essentially the same task. So maknanya dua-dua projek ni sama, it's a similar project, tapi you kena bayangkan as a company, I have limited resources. Okay, resources I untuk a certain project mungkin boleh carry one project at a time. So the term mutually exclusive, the term exclusive ni bermaksud if you accept one project, you have to reject the other one. So you hanya pilih, you need choose one project only. Okay, you hanya pilih satu je. So meaning if you accept one, you have to reject the other one. So if you accept project A, you reject project B. Or vice versa lah, if you accept project B, you have to reject project A. Okay, so the keyword, choose one project, and that one project mestilah the best project lah out of two. Okay, choose the best project lah. Okay, for the independent project pula, so dia independent, meaning it's unrelated. The projects are not the same. Okay, cuma ada salah kat sini so dia bukan where rejection, where acceptance. Where acceptance of one doesn't mean you have to reject the other. So maksudnya kat sini, possible to choose more than one. Okay, possible to choose more than one. So maksudnya kat sini, again, if you have two projects but they are independent projects, so meaning if you accept project A, there's a possibility to accept project B. Tapi dengan syarat kalau you accept both project must be profitable lah. So kalau ada dua project, satu profitable, satu tak profitable, so still you're gonna choose one, which is the ones yang profitable. Okay, so that's why the terms is possible. Dia bukan must choose more than one dia possible to choose more than one. Okay, so I recap ataupun I summarize as simple as possible. Mutually exclusive, pilih salah satu, pilih yang terbaik. Just one. For independent, you possible to choose more than one dengan syarat both projects are profitable. So if just either one yang profitable, again you just choose the one yang profitable saja. We don't simply choose the projects for the sake of accepting the project lah. So you need to ensure projects tu memang profitable. Okay, sebab as a company, obviously the bottom line is important lah, profits kan. So just to highlight, independent, kemungkinan untuk lebih daripada satu tu ada. Okay, walaupun it's not necessary. So we have two categories of budgeting techniques. Okay, satu dipanggil non-discounted cash flow and satu lagi discounted cash flow. So what's the difference? Kalau untuk the non-discounted, it will not use the time value of money concept. Okay, ingat topik sebelum ni kita buat time value of money, present value, future value. So for the non-discounted, dia tak guna. Do not use time value of money. So dia rely primarily on the formula. Okay, for the discounted cash flow, you're going to use time value of money. Okay, so ada tiga lah, net present value, internal rate of return dengan profitability index. So out of these 5, ada payback, average rate return, NPV semua ni. Dari 2 kategori ni, I can say the discounted cash flow will give you more weight on your decision making. So maknanya kat sini kalau ada dua kategori ni, kategori mana yang akan bagi kita decision making lebih accurate, we're going to use the DCF method. Okay, kita akan gunakan DCF method, especially the net present value. Okay, so this would be your main reference untuk buat decision. So bila you ada multiple projects under your consideration, you do all the analysis. First, you look at the NPV. So which one give us higher NPV? So then kita go back to the types of project lah. So kalau dia mutual exclusive, you're going to choose NPV yang paling tinggi. Okay, tapi kalau dia independent, you're going to choose NPV yang positives. So kalau dua-dua positives, so you accept both projects. Itu je dia punya rule of thumb lah. Okay, rule of thumb dia. So we're going to go through all 5. Okay, we're going to go through all 5. With the exception of internal rate of return yang I akan tunjuk satu saja. Okay, I will explain afterwards lah apa maksud dia. So let's go through one by one. Okay, so we're going to start dengan the non-discounted cash flow that does not consider the time value of money. Macam saya cakap tadi, does not consider time value of money. So we have two analysis, which is the payback period and also the average rate of return ataupun ARR. Okay, payback period ni yang guna PP lah, payback period. Okay, so we going to start dengan payback period. So payback period ni in short adalah time taken, kita nak tahu how long it take to break even. Kita nak tahu berapa lama kita akan dapat balik kita punya cost. Okay, we want to know how long it takes for us to generate enough cash flow to cover the cost. So the cost kita panggil dia sebagai initial outlay. Initial outlay ni adalah initial cost ataupun the cost of the project lah. Okay, so untuk setiap soalan capital budgeting, it's gonna be 2 types of streams. Kalau ingat masa kita belajar the previous topic, time value of money, kita akan tolak single payment because when we do capital budgeting, kita akan assume the transaction of cash flows tu akan berlaku lebih daripada sekali. Okay, so the pattern of the cash flow can be in a sense of annuity. Okay, kalau ingat tadi annuity tu apa? Same amount. Okay, ataupun satu lagi dalam uneven series. So uneven ni bermaksud amount yang diterima setiap tahun tu will be different. Okay, so untuk setiap soalan dia ada example kat dalam ni, tapi untuk example ni dia dah ada jawapan. So what I'm gonna do, dia tadi okay, I'm gonna, it's one of the past year question, which is Jan 2018. Okay, January 2018. Question 4B. Okay, question 4B. Pasal nama company ni Tri Muhammad Berhad. Nama company ni pun macam Tri Muhammad Berhad. And soalan dia suruh kita consider 2 projects, project A and project B, for independent. So ada the keyword kat sini, independent. Independent. So maknanya decision kita kejap lagi depends on the on our calculation lah. So independent, ingat tadi there's a possibility for us to choose more than one. Okay, tak semestinya kita pilih dua-dua, but there's a possibility. And when you see the punya cash flow for project A, dia tulis kat sini initial investment ataupun initial outlay dia 50,000 for project A, 47,000 for project B. And then dia punya cash flow pattern berbeza. For project A, it is annuity because it's 15,000 each year for 4 years. And for project B, dia uneven. Okay, dia turun naik kan, 35,000, lepas tu 5,000, then goes up to 20,000 and then go back down to 4,000. Okay, so even though the question asks us to calculate payback dengan MPV, but I'm going to share with you all 5 methods lah untuk kira. Okay, so this would be our reference. I akan letak dia on one side and then I'm going to have a whiteboard on the other kan, macam biasa. And bear with me, I might go back and forth to the slide as well. Boleh I akan kena minimize and then kena pergi dekat whiteboard tu lah kejap lagi. But anyway, so coming back to our first method, which is the payback period. So since we have 2 patterns, annuity dengan uneven, for payback period sahaja, we have 2 separate formulas. Okay, ada 2 formula bergantung kepada pattern of the cash flow. So kita ada pattern for annuity. Okay, pattern for annuity. And we have pattern for the uneven. Okay, and annuity obviously much easier to calculate. Right, so for annuity, I baca kat sini, formula dia adalah initial outlay, the IO, which is the cost. And akan kita divide dengan the annual cash flow. So annual cash flow sebab dia annuity, cash flow dia sama setiap tahun kan. Then we're going to get the number of years. So bila kita bahagi ni, kita akan dapat jawapannya dalam tahun lah. How many years? X point X years. Contohnya lah. So untuk uneven series pula, the formula slightly longer, slightly technical sedikit. Okay, I read the formula first. It's year minus 1. Okay, year minus 1 plus, again, initial outlay minus ACC ni adalah accumulated cash flow before year. And we're going to divide everything by the cash flow for the year. So ada year kat sini, ada year kat sini, and ada year kat sini. So what does it mean by year? Year is actually where the cash inflow must accumulated until the initial investment recovered. So kita kena kira one by one setiap tahun tu. Tahun keberapa is the amount yang kita accumulate tu cover the initial cost. So kalau kita kira setiap tahun tu, let's say tahun ketiga kita dapat, then the year will become 3 kat sini. So kita akan substitute lah. It means year 3, cash flow before year 3, cash flow for the year 3. So again, kalau I explain macam ni mungkin tak nampak. Let's go straight to the example lah. Maybe kita boleh illustrate better. Okay, so we're going to start dengan besarkan sikit, tak nampak. Okay, so it's Sri Muhammad. This is for Jan 2018. Question 4B tadi kan? 4B. And we start dengan payback. Okay, payback period. And I use PP to indicate the initials, payback period, and we're going to start dengan project A lah. Letak PPA. A ni is for project A. And if you recall, formula dia tadi adalah IO bahagi dengan annual cash flow. Okay, annual cash flow. So IO dia is 50,000 for project A. This is the cost. And for the cash flow, it's 15,000 each year. And so straightforward, yeah, 50,000 divided by 15,000. So you're going to get 3.33 years. Okay, 3.33 tahun. Okay, what does it mean? Kalau you go one by one, so year 1 dia baru recover 15,000. Okay, 15,000. And then bila you accumulate second year, 15 plus 15, you baru generate 30,000. So tak cukup 50,000 ni, tak recover. Within 2 years, tak recover lagi lah. And then you add the third year, another 15,000. So bila you tambah for the third year, it becomes 45,000. Okay, technically 45,000 pun tak recover the 50,000 yet kan. And then you add the fourth year, the final 15,000, then you get 60,000 kan, 60,000. Jelas 60,000 tu cover lah 50,000, but we need to know at exact point when we get that 50,000 instead of 60. So that's why by using this formula, dia akan point the exact time when is the cash flow akan recover the cost. So dalam case ni dia pada point 3.33 tahun. Okay. So kita boleh guna konsep tu for annuity project. But for project B, okay, kalau you ingat tadi formula dia, it's year minus 1 plus, again, IO, tolak accumulated cash flow before year, and then divide by cash flow for year. Macam tu. So, like I said, year ni ada 3 points. And year ni kita identify by adding individually, just like what I did for project A just now. So, kita kena manually calculate kira pada tahun keberapa kita recover the cost. Okay, so for example, for project B, first year dia dapat 35,000 kan, 35,000. So 35,000 belum cukup 47,000 lagi. So just year 1 is not sufficient. So it's not year 1 lah. So then we add year 2. So 35 plus 5, 40,000. So 40,000 again is insufficient. Tak cukup lagi cover 47. So second year still not recovered. Then we add third year. Okay, tahun ketiga. Tahun ketiga 40 plus 20 is 60,000. So 60,000 recover? Yes. Dah lebih kan? Dah lebih 47. So kita dah identify year 3 as our year lah. Tahun di mana kita recover. So we're going to substitute all the year dengan tahun ketiga. So it's 3 minus 1 plus the IO is 47,000. So the IO cash flow before year 3, maknanya accumulated cash flow before year 3 must be the cash flow for the first 2 years. Okay, 2 tahun pertama adalah 40,000. Okay, 47 minus 40,000. So again, I ulang macam mana dapat cash flow before year 3. So before year 3 is year 2. So the first 2 years, it's 40,000. Okay, so our numerator ni tak boleh negatif. It shouldn't be negative. So kalau you tertambah 1 tahun extra, so for example you ambil 35 campur 5 dan campur 20 jadi 60 kan. So if you put 60,000 kat sini, you're going to get a negative amount. So you know it's wrong already. Okay, dia kena positive amount. So remove 1 year, then you left with 40,000. So that's the correct one lah. 2 tahun pertama, which is accumulated cash flow before year 3. So before year 3, it's year 2 lah. Okay, and then cash flow for year 3. Okay, so ingat semua year ni kita substitute dengan nombor 3. So cara baca dia is cash flow for year 3. So cash flow for year 3 adalah 20,000. Okay, so we solve the equations. 47 minus 40,000 divided by 20,000.
Is it 2.35?
Correct. It's 2.35 years. Thank you. Okay, 2.35 years. Okay, as a rule of thumb untuk payback period, remember this is time taken for us to recover the cost. So obviously when we do selection, kita nak our return ataupun our cash flow tu to recover as quickly as possible. So we have 2.35 years versus 3.33 years. So out of these two, the better one would be project B lah. Okay, project B lagi bagus because we can recover the cost faster. Okay, but bear in mind, we cannot rely just on one method lah, one technique. Especially kalau dia non-discounted macam payback period ni. Okay, sebab we cannot expect just quick turnover. Kita nak profitable as well. Okay, so this is just one of the indicator lah. So indicator dia, project B is faster. But you kena ingat tadi these are two independent projects. So ada kemungkinan kita mungkin accept kedua-duanya. But on this case, untuk payback period, kita tak boleh decide. Okay, kita tak boleh decide lah untuk pilih yang mana satu ataupun kedua-duanya just yet. So kita leave it as is. We know payback period B is better than payback period A. Itu je yang kita boleh conclude as of now. Okay, so now let's move on to the second technique yang dipanggil sebagai average rate of return. Okay, average rate of return. So, untuk average rate of return, we don't have a two separate formula. Kita boleh guna formula yang sama for both annuity and also for the uneven. So, dia menjimatkan sikit kita punya proses untuk mengingat lah. So, the formula would be, I letak kat sini, the generic formula. So, ARR is average rate of return. The formula dia, it's gonna be average cash flow bahagi dengan average investment. Okay. For the average cash flow, is simply take the sum of cash flow, you bahagi dengan N. Okay, sum of cash flow, maknanya you sum all the cash flows and then you bagi dengan N lah. Kalau ni 4 tahun, bagi 4 lah. So ni pun sama, you add all 4 and then divide by N. And for the average investment, it would be initial outlay divide by 2. Okay, so this is the formula that we use untuk average rate of return. So you multiply with 100 lah to get it in percentage. Okay, sebab bila dia rate, must be in percentage. Okay, so darablah 100. Okay, so for project A, okay, for project A, the average cash flow, technically you tak payah kira lah sebenarnya sebab 15,000 campur 15,000 campur 15,000 campur another 15,000 and then you divide by 4, it become 50,000 again kan. So untuk annuity, tak payah kira lah. Every year tu is the same kan. So bila average pun, it must be the same as well. Cuma untuk average investment, kita kena kira lah 50,000 divide by 2. Okay, times 100. So it's 15,000 divided by 25,000 times 100. So it's 60%. Okay, 60%. This is for project A. Okay, 60%. For project B, ARRB, so the average kita kena kira lah. Kita kena add every single year. 35 plus 5, 40, 60. So it's 64,000 divided by 4. And we're going to divide by 47,000 divided by 2. Okay, multiply 100 lah. So 64 divided by 4 divided by 47 divided by 2. Okay, and we get 68.09%. Okay, so as of now, based on the non-discounted techniques, both projects indicates project B is better. So dari segi nak pilih mana yang lagi bagus, payback period, project B is faster, and for average rate of return, project B has higher returns, 68%. Okay, so tak ada conflict in terms of the answers. Okay, there are some question macam contoh group yang saya buat tadi for June 2018, when we stop until average rate of return, setiap satu tu pilih project yang lain. Okay, payback project A bagus, average rate of return project B bagus contohnya lah. So we don't have a conclusive decision yet. Tapi as of now, nampak project B is better. Tapi we still cannot decide kalau dia independent, adakah kita nak accept kedua-dua ataupun pilih salah satu. We don't know yet. As I mentioned masa dalam slide tadi, okay, we gonna rely on this. So selagi belum sampai NPV, kita tak boleh decide lagi lah. So we have done payback and we have done ARR. So dua ni kita dah buat, and so far I can say it's still inconclusive lagi lah. Okay, cuma rule of thumb dalam ni pun ada tulis, payback we want it to be as quickly as possible. So maknanya our lower payback will be better, and untuk ARR, the higher the better. We accept project with the higher rates lah. Okay, yeah, nama pun return kan, so we want it to be as high as possible. Okay, so now we move on to the DCF technique, the discounted cash flow technique. So untuk discounted cash flow, we have to use the time value of money. Okay, kita kena guna lah, we have to use the time value of money. And the ones that we're going to use is just present value ataupun present value annuity sahaja. So we don't take into consideration future value. So kita guna PV or PVA sahaja. So depends. Kalau dia annuity, then we can use PVA. Kalau dia uneven macam tadi, remember, kalau multiple cash flow with uneven series, kita kena buat individually present value dia. Okay, so we have three methods. So I'm going to start dengan NPV dengan PI dulu. So this one I'm going to leave it last, internal rate of return ya. So net present value ni kita initialkan dia sebagai NPV. Internal rate of return is IRR, and profitability is PI. Okay, so I'm going to start dengan NPV and then straight to PI, and then I'm going to leave IRR at the end lah. So instead of the table ataupun the slide, I'm gonna use the example to illustrate and also to show you the formula lah. So kita kena move to this side. Kita akan start dengan we're gonna start dengan net present value, and remember net present value is the deal breaker. Net present value and PV. Okay, so this will be our decision maker, the deal breaker, the tie breaker, whatever you want to call it, untuk menentukan which project should we choose later. Sebab di this independent, kemungkinan ada untuk kita accept both. Tapi dengan syarat, we're going to have a positive NPV. Okay, rule untuk NPV very straightforward. The higher the better, and we want it to be positive. So if it's negative NPV, automatically we're going to reject that project. Okay, project tu kita akan reject kalau dia negatif. Sebab negative NPV indicates that the money that we generated for each year tu is not enough, it's not sufficient to cover the initial investment. Duit yang masuk tu tak cover the cost pun. So why we bother to invest kalau kita tahu duit masuk tu tak cukup nak cover the cost. Okay, so we're going to reject any negative NPV. So in general, NPV formula dia adalah total present value of cash flow. Okay, total present value of cash flow we minus with the initial outlay. So nak cari total present value cash flow ni yang berbeza mengikut sama ada dia annuity ataupun dia uneven series. Okay, walaupun formula asas dia sama for both project A and project B. So we're going to start dengan project A, NPV A. And remember, A ni adalah annuity. So bila dia annuity, we can use annuity table. Okay, so bila you nampak total present value of cash flow ni, I dah tak perlu tulis formula present value tadi Kalau you ingat, PVA, which is annuity, PVA equals to amount darab PVIFA KN. So that format. So format tu terpakai dekat sini. Okay, format tu terpakai dekat sini. So meaning, to find the total present value untuk project A, I need to know the installment, which is 15,000. And I need to know the PVIFA. K dia, soalan ni, K dia, cost of capital dia 14%. And N dia is 4 years. Okay, and this would be my total present value of cash flow. Right, and minus the IO lah. IO dia 50,000 kan. 50,000. Okay, so the ones in the bracket is similar formula ataupun approach that we use masa topik sebelum ni. Okay, so it's 15,000 darab dengan PVIFA 14 and 4. So we go down to table PVIFA. Okay, the table PVIFA, look for 14% and 4 years. So, besarkan sikit So 14% on 4 years, table PVIFA betul. 14, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the fourth year. Highlight lah. This one lah 2.9137. Okay, this one 2.9137, 14%, 4 years. Okay. Panjang sikit step dia tulis. Okay. Take 15,000 times 2.9137. Okay, you're gonna get 43,705 and 50 cents and minus 50,000. Okay, so from here you dah nampak lah you're gonna get a negative amount 6,294 and 50 cents. So use a bracket to indicate negative lah sebab lagi senang nak nampak instead of you put a negative sign sebab nanti kadang-kadang tak terkeluar nak what you untuk letak negatif kan. So better put a bracket to indicate this is a negative amount lah. Okay, so as of now kita dah boleh kata lah kita akan reject project A. Okay, hopefully soalan ni tak salah kan tiba-tiba calculate project B pun negatif juga, but anyway let's try MPV for project B. Okay, so before we do project B, I remind balik, so for project A, the total present value of cash flow dia 43,705, 50 cents. And the cost is 50,000 kan. So bila kita minus, we get a negative amount. But for project B, bear with me, kita pergi balik dekat soalan ni. For project B, it is uneven. So therefore, kita kena cari present value dia one by one. So what does it mean one by one? So we have 35,000 as our first cash flow. So kita kena cari what would be the PVIF. Okay, sebab dia single payment ataupun multiple streams. So setiap satu tu kita kena cari dia punya interest factor sendiri. So meaning it's 14% year 1, 40% year 2, year 3 and year 4 based on PVIF sebab this is single So you have, I tulis dulu 35,000 plus 5,000 plus 20,000 and plus another 4,000. So we have 4 payments ataupun 4 cash flows and kita akan ada 4 different interest factor lah. Okay, so untuk project B, we're going to use PVIF. Okay, we're going to use PVIF and still the reference is 14%. Cuma kita ada 4 tahun yang berbeza kan. So for the first year, 35,000, kita akan ambil 0.8772. Okay, this is the first year. Second year, 0.7695. Okay, so this is the second year. The third year, 0.6750. Okay, so this is the third year, and our final year, year 4, is 0.5921. Okay, so these are the cash flows lah. So kita kena cari the total. So that's why I add every single year ni. So kita cari the total, and don't forget we minus the IO. So for project B, the initial outlay is 47,000. Okay, so we have to manually calculate satu-satu lah. 35,000 multiply with 0.8772. Okay, make use of the bracket dalam your calculator and then add 5,000 times 0.7695 plus 20,000 darab dengan 0.6750 plus 4,000 times 0.5921. So untuk project B, the total present value of cash flow is 50,417 and 90 cents. Okay, and minus the 47,000 kat sini. So we have a positive amount 3,417 and 90 cents. Okay, kalau tadi kita dapat negatif. Okay, so untuk the uneven series, we have to calculate manually one by one, slightly longer steps, tapi the end game is the same. We want to find the total present value of the cash flows. Okay, and as you can see here, I tick kat sini lah. Project B is better than project A. And just looking at the NPV alone, kita dah boleh buat decision sebenarnya. We're going to choose project B. Okay, even though they are independent. Okay, sepatutnya you boleh pilih dua-dua, tapi memandangkan project A ni rugi, so we going to recommend to the company to choose project B only. And then you kena justify lah. Okay, you akan justify kenapa project B lagi bagus. Okay, bear with me, I buka kat screen ni. Okay, and as of now, memang semua indicators menunjukkan project B is better, kan? So, if you want to justify, okay, you akan kata, okay, I'm going to recommend for the company to choose project B, and then justify kenapa lah, because it has positive NPV, higher average rate of return, and shorter payback period. Itu apa yang kita dah buat so far kan. So ketiga-tiga indicates project B is better kan. So you bolehlah gunakan ketiga-tiga method ni untuk justify your decision. Okay, tapi sebelum kita buat NPV tadi, kita tak boleh decide lagi. Walaupun both tunjuk project B is better kan. To, like I said, the deal breaker ataupun the tie breaker, we look at the NPV. And since NPV ni consistent dengan the rest of our indicators, you gunalah semua tu sebagai justification. Okay, so as I said, lepas NPV, I would like to talk about profitability index. Okay, kenapa I skip IRR? Sebab profitability index ataupun BI ni akan menggunakan data yang sama. We're going to use the same data. What data? Data yang kita guna dalam NPV. So PI, we're going to use total present value cash flow juga. So TPVCF ni total present value cash flow ni. Okay, so initially TPVCF, total present value cash flow. Kalau tadi we minus with IO, now we divide by IO. So beza dia just the operation lah. Kalau tadi kita minus IO, for PI, we divide the IO. Okay, so maknanya dekat sini, for project A, data kita dah ada kat sini tadi So it's 43,705, 50 cents, and kita divide by 50,000. Okay, darab 100 lah to get in percentage. Sorry, dia tak payah darab 100. Dia bukan percentage, dia index. Okay, so you don't have to multiply with 100. You just bahagi, you akan dapat dalam decimal. So it's 43,705.5 divided by 50,000. So you're gonna get 0.874. Okay, 0.874 is for project A, and for project B, profitability index B, the cash flow adalah 50,000. Salah lagi. 417.90 cents, and we're gonna divide dengan 47,000. Okay, so again, don't multiply with 100 sebab dia decimal ataupun points ataupun index. 5417.9 and divide by 47,000. So here you get 1.073. Okay, 1.073. So untuk profitability index, the good number would be anything more than 1. So you want the number to be more than 1, the result. So here as you can see, project B je yang score dia more than 1. Okay, whereas project A, the score is below than 1. Reason being, mathematically kita dah boleh nampak lah kenapa dia kurang daripada 1, sebab numerator dia lagi rendah daripada denominator kan. When the cash flow is less than IO, automatically you're going to get the PI of less than 1. Okay, less than 1. So, again, untuk soalan Jan 2018 ni, memang without any hesitation, kita boleh kata project B better all around lah. Semua dia lagi bagus daripada project A. So, as I said, kalau soalan suruh kita justify and choose, okay, this is where kita dah boleh conclude lah, sebab IRR kejap lagi, kita akan calculate hanya satu je. Instead of both project, kita akan calculate for the annuity project sahaja. So, in this case, the 4 that we already calculated dah boleh justify kita punya decision. So, I recap. So, if the question asks us to choose, kita akan kata, the company should choose project B, okay, to pemilihan dia, selection dia, project B. And then next, you have to justify. Justify dia, since semua memang project B lagi bagus, you can mention all the projects ataupun all the assessment untuk support your decision. So, you boleh kata, you start dengan MPV, you choose project B because it has higher MPV ataupun positive MPV, higher PI, higher profitability index, higher average rate of return, and a shorter payback period. Okay, sebab payback period ni lagi rendah lagi bagus kan, so it's a shorter payback period lah. And that will give you the full marks untuk justification. Okay, so kalau nak screenshot, this is the answers untuk the 4 methods, and we left with one more method. Okay, so untuk buat method yang terakhir, internal rate of return, I have to erase the page sebab tak muat tak muat ni. Okay, so kita tengok page baru lah. Okay, page baru. Tak ada grid lah, macam mana buat grid tadi lama tak pakai benda ni, ada lupa macam nak pakai. Okay, bear with me lah, tutup je lah dulu. Kita try reopen it. Okay. Okay. So for the last method, dipanggil sebagai internal rate of return, or IRR. Okay, so untuk internal rate of return ni, as I mentioned, kita ada 2 project to consider just now. Okay, project A and project B, tetapi the complexity of the calculation, especially we are doing manual calculation sekarang ni kan, so bukanlah impossible, tapi it will take a lot of time to calculate for the uneven series. Okay, dia akan ambil masa sikit untuk kita kira lah, and it may require us to do the trial and error process. Okay, and because of that, even kalau you buka some pasir question pun, kalau you buka pasir yang dulu, Kalau disuruh kira IRR pun, dia akan suruh kira IRR for the annuity project saja. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to focus on the annuity project. So annuity project adalah projek A lah yang cash flow dia sama setiap tahun. So again, dia still relates dengan total present value of cash flow. So dia ada still TBVCF. And dia pun involve dengan IO juga. So untuk kita punya the discounted cash flow untuk MPV, profitability index dengan IRR, the base is actually the same. Okay. Cuma untuk internal rate of return, kita nak cari at what rate, okay, pada rate berapa persen, when we calculate the total present value ni, and when we minus the IO, kita akan dapat zero, exactly zero. So what does it mean? Tadi kita kira 14% kan. So untuk 14% kita akan calculate projek A, jawapan dia negatif. Untuk projek B, bila kita guna 14%, dia jawapan dia positif kan, dapat profit. So now, we want to substitute the percentage dalam TPVCF ni. Kalau ingat TPVCF ni tadi, formula dia adalah amount darab dengan, kalau dia annuity lah, PVIFA, K dengan N kan. So K ni kita substitute dengan 14 untuk kita dapat tadi kan, and 15,000 is the amount. Tapi sekarang kita nak substitute the K ni, dengan IRR. So IRR ni lah yang kita nak cari, yang akan bagi amount kita ni sama dengan IO. Sebab bila kita minus dengan IO ni, dapat kosong. So maknanya untuk projek A ni kita nak cari at what rate the amount will give us 50,000. Sebab 50,000 tolak 50,000, it's gonna be zero kan. Bila kita guna 14% tadi, kita dapat negatif. Okay, kita guna 14% dekat IRR ni, which is our K, we get a lesser number than 50. Kita dapat 47,000 berapa tadi kan. Saya tak ingat ada padam kan. 47 ke 43,000 tadi. So it's less than 50. So now kita kena simulate at what rate we're gonna get the total present value cash flow ni becomes 50,000. So macam mana nak buat? Nampak macam complicated kan? Dia bukanlah complicated, tapi dia melibatkan 3 step. You have to do 3 steps approach in finding the value. So bear with me, within 10 minutes ni, dia ada 3 step. Step yang pertama, right? Step yang pertama sebenarnya a repeat of IO divide by annual cash flow. Okay, step ni kita pernah buat tadi masa kita buat the payback period. Okay, we have done this during the payback period. Kita dapat 3.33 tadi kalau tak salah. Okay, tapi kita revisit and tulis semula. So step 1 is IO divide by 15,000. So yeah, it's 3.3333. Okay, and note I guna 4 decimal. I use 4 decimal. Why I use 4 decimal? Remember, bila kita tengok dalam table, all the tables yang kat bawah ni semua 4 decimal. So you want it to be consistent lah. Sebab kita akan refer to the table PVIFA kejap lagi. Okay. But before we do to the table, step number 1, I ulang. We do IO divide by ACF. So that's our first step. And then identify the interest factor and put it 4 decimals. Okay, 4 decimals. So next, step 2. Okay, step number 2. Kita kena refer PVIFA table. Okay, and we don't know the rate of return yet, tapi we know the time. So untuk soalan ni, the N is 4 kan. So kita tahu dia ada pada tahun keempat. Okay, so tengok PVIFA table. Okay, PVIFA table. So this is approach macam kita buat soalan time value of money tadi, whereby kita nak cari the rate yang 8.0607 dan kita dapat 9% kan. So something like that, similar. So this is PVIFA. The reference that we have is 3.333 and the year is 4. Kita tak tahu interest, we don't know the IRR atas ni, tak tahu, but we know the the year is year 4. So sekarang kita cari 3.3333, ada tak? Okay, 3.3333. So it's in between of these two rates. 3.3333 dia lower than 7%. Sebab 7% 3.387, and higher than 8%. Sebab 8% is 3.31. So 3.33 dia berada di tengah of these two lah. Okay, di tengah dua-dua ni. It's between 7 and 8%. Okay, so this is where we're going to do the interpolation kalau I cakap tadi kan. So we have to do interpolation to determine exactly dia berapa, 7.1% ke, 7.2, 7.3, up to 7.9. Mana satu sebenarnya rate dia kan. So how kita akan ambil, kita dah determine tadi 7 and 8. So the lower rate adalah 7%. So I'm going to write here 7%. Okay, 7%, and we write dia punya interest factor lah. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 3.38 3.3872. Okay, that's the interest factor. 7%. The fourth year, 3.3872. And then I'm going to write the internal rate of return. This is our figure, 3.3333. Okay. And the one that will be at the bottom is the next rate. So 8% lah bawah dia kan. 8%. So 8%, the fourth year is 3.3121. Okay, betul kasih lah. Okay, so at this stage, you kena pastikan betul the number IRR ni must be in between of the two numbers. Okay, dia tak boleh tersalah pilih lah. Okay, so 38 is higher than 33 and 33 is higher than 31 kan. So the sequence is correct. Okay, so kita akan tahu jawapan kita kejap lagi. It must be between 7.1 to 7.9. Okay, itu kita punya expected answer lah. So how to do ataupun how to conclude this step number 2? Kita akan buat ataupun kita kena cari the differences. So I'm going to write this arrow to indicate kita kena cari difference between 3.3872 and then dengan 3.3333. So kita kena tolak. Okay, we have to find the first difference. So 3.3872 minus 3.3333. So you dapat 0.0539. Okay, so this is your first difference. Okay, perbezaan yang pertama the top and the middle. Top and the middle, the difference you just minus, you get 0.0539. Okay, and second difference would be from the top and the bottom. So 3.3872 with the 3.3121. So that is the second difference. Okay, perbezaan yang kedua. So I'm going to write second difference. So again, 3.3872 minus 3.3121. Okay, the top and the bottom. Tadi first top and middle. Now top and bottom. And remember, jawapan dia tak boleh negatif. It shouldn't be a negative amount, 0.0751. Besides, it's not to be a negative amount. First difference mesti lebih rendah daripada second difference. Okay, sebab perbezaan dia lebih dekat kan. Top and middle is narrower as compared to the top and bottom. So the first difference mesti lebih rendah daripada the second difference. Okay, so kalau kat sini pun you dah dapat salah dari segi which one is bigger, then you know selection ni mungkin salah lah. Okay, the selection can be wrong. Okay, but in this case, yes, solid, kita dapat first difference is lower than the second one. Okay, and we're going to conclude dengan step 3. Okay, step 3 ni yang akan bagi kita jawapan sebenar lah. Okay, so step number 3, first I'm going to write the formula. The formula lagi ya. So it is based on lower rate. So what is lower rate? Kan ada 7 dengan 8. 7 dengan 8 mana satu yang lower? This is our lower rate lah. 7%. So 8 ni adalah higher rates. Okay, so kita ambil lower rates, okay, which is dalam case ni 7%, and then we're gonna plus. Okay, so kalau you tengok dalam notes tu terbalik, it doesn't matter. So I'm gonna use this so that it's easier for me to remember. So start dengan 7% kat depan, and then we go back. The first difference bahagi dengan the second difference. Okay, so that's why kita punya numerator mesti lebih rendah daripada denominator, and then akan multiply dengan higher rates minus lower rates. So maknanya 8 dengan 7, so 8 minus 7 which is 1% lah, 1% difference. Okay, so if I put the numbers, it's gonna be, ni maknanya IRR dia lah. So it's gonna be 7%. Okay, always letak 7 bukan 8 Kalau you letak 8 kat sini, your answer will become 8 point something, which is bila letak kat sini, IRR is not 8 point something. IRR mesti 7 point something. Okay, so that's why remember put the lower rates plus 0.0539 and divide by 0.0751. And then multiply the difference, 8 minus 7. Okay, which is 1% lah kat belakang ni. So it's 1%. So you take 0.0539 divide by 0.0751, darab 1%, and then plus 7%. So the exact percentage would be, lebih besar kat sini so it will be 7.72%. Okay, 7.72%, which sits nicely dekat sini lah. 7.72 is in between 7 and 8 kan. So if your answer in step 3 tiba-tiba dapat 11%, 10% contohnya. Kalau you letak kat sini 10% macam tak logik kan. Dia 7, tekan tiba-tiba 10, lepas tu 8 kan. So your answer should falls nicely in the middle for the IRR. So in this case, untuk project, ni project apa tadi ya? Project B, ke project A? Project A, the rate of return ataupun internal rate of return is 7.72. Okay, 7.72. So kalau you compare dengan cost of capital, cost of capital dia 14%. So that's why for project A kita kena reject. Walaupun kita tak kira untuk project B yet tapi project A ni memang kita kena reject sebab dia punya internal rate of return lower than 14%. Okay, lower than 14%, and that's why based on the previous method pun memang kita reject project A. NPV negative, PI less than 1, higher payback period and lower average rate of return. And this IRR pun sebenarnya dah boleh dah boleh conclude that memang kita patut reject project A. Okay, so untuk project B kita tak boleh justify using IRR sebab kita tak kira. And imagine the process untuk buat ni akan mengambil masa untuk the annuity. Imagine kalau dia uneven. So kalau uneven, mungkin perlukan satu lagi set of calculations sebelum kita boleh conclude, and bukan tak boleh but it will take time. So alternatively, for those yang ada financial calculator, katakanlah kalau ada financial calculator, we can actually calculate NPV ataupun internal rate of return much faster. Okay, contohnya kalau I kira sekejap untuk project B, kita tak kira I use financial calculator untuk calculate for project B. 4,000. So if I solve the internal rate of return, okay, using financial calculator so IRR for project B, not even 1 minute I buat ni, I get 18.71%. Okay, 18.71%, and again untuk IRR kita kena compare dengan cost of capital. Cost of capital kita 14 kan. So 18.71 is higher than 14%. Okay, higher than 14%. So higher than 40%, so it shows that we can accept project B lah sebab dia punya return is higher than the cost of capital. Okay, so itu kalau kita nak justify guna internal rate of return lah. Okay, but since we don't calculate project B, okay, so kita tak gunalah internal rate of return as our justification. Cuma for those yang ada financial calculator, katakanlah ada yang ada, you tak boleh lah terus tulis jawapan macam ni. You kena tulis lah the steps how you indicate. Sebab macam kalau siapa yang guna Casio contohnya, you kena write in lah, ataupun you kena write in details the data dalam cash data editor tu, what is the amount that you key in, how much you key in untuk MPV, untuk IRR and so on, kena detail sikit lah. And kalau guna jenis calculator yang lain, try to write as detailed as possible how you derive 18.71. Okay, itu je lah. Cuma like I said, siapa yang ada financial calculator, the benefits will be it will hasten your process untuk dapatkan benda ni, untuk dapatkan jawapan dia lah. Okay, I think that's a wrap untuk kita punya topic number 11, which is the capital budgeting, and at the same time it's a wrap also for our syllabus. So as a recap, for the final test nanti, it's going to cover the short-term financing, the long-term financing, and today's topic, time value of money, and also capital budgeting, right? And it will be done on the 5th of July, hari Ahad, face-to-face at UiTM Puncak Alam, the same spot, the same class that we had, I think, during the second seminar. And what else? And it's going to be done within the 2-hour punya slot in our class. Maknanya from 10:45 tu kena ready dah. Kita akan complete it by 12:45. If you can do it earlier, you can submit earlier lah as usual. Okay, so I will share with you the videos. Okay, and as I said, feel free to browse the other groups' videos untuk reference. And if you go to my YouTube channel tu, you can search by topics untuk tengok again the previous semesters punya videos even kalau rajin. So feel free to browse through the videos lah for your exam. So this time around you're lucky sebab kelas Sabtu and then Ahad back to back, and then the exam few weeks later lah. Tapi macam last semester, as I said, imagine second last seminar hari Sabtu, and then hari Ahad, which is today, terus exam. Maknanya kita belajar last malam, hari ni terus exam, which is not helpful to the student lah. Tapi this time around dia dah ubah, so week 6 and 7 dia buat back to back, then you have a few weeks untuk you study untuk your final test. Okay, so all the best for your final assessment. So for those please observe yang assessment yang tinggal, ada yang group assignment, I think today deadline dia, and then there's another individual assignment that will be due somewhere next week, I guess. Nanti you check tengok je dalam U-Future tu. And for those yang ada tertinggal, okay, I might open the late submission punya tapak pula nantilah untuk siapa yang belum submit anything. Okay, I will let you guys know later for that one. So thank you, and inshallah I'll see you guys early next month. All right, Assalamualaikum.
Thanks, Doctor.
All right.